Hey guys, in one of my most recent videos, I showed off this little device right here. And what this is basically a DIY Amazon Dash button. So just like those little buttons you can buy from Amazon, you click them and they buy you whatever paper towels. This here has a little button on it. And when I click it, it turns on this little ESP8266 and does some little task. It could be, in the video that I showed it off in, it was opening a garage door, but it could also be used to just, log something, do some small minor task, turn on lights. You get the point. And I had so many of you guys ask me, how I built this that I want to show you guys how I built it today in this video. So the parts that you're going to need to make this are one of my little HT7333A voltage regulators. And if you want to see how to make this, go and check out the link in the top right now. You'll need an ESP8266. I have an 01 module here, but you can use any module you want, really. A little push button. You'll also need some sort of battery. So I'm using these really nice Orbtronic 18650 cells, but any lithium polymer battery will work just fine. And then to round it all off, we need some sort of a battery holder. So this is specifically for 18650 cells, but if you have some other kind of battery, you'll need a battery holder for that. And lastly, you'll also need a little bit of female headers. So now that we have an overview of how this works, let's put it all together. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my regulator here and I'm going to just hot glue it somewhere around here on the module. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to make all my solder connections and then have my ESP8266 here. And hopefully all my solder connections will be kind of nice up close to the top here. And I'll be able to chop off the ends of these connections, making it nice and clear so that the ESP8266 isn't obstructed. So first I'm going to hot glue this down and then wire up the connections to the regulator. All right, so there we go. I've got power going to the center and ground going to the ground side of my circuit. So now the next thing to do is to cut off enough of this female header to have a little 4x4 connection. And I will solder the power lines from the regulator here, so from ground and output, to the correct points on the ESP when it's plugged into the headers. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to hot glue these headers directly onto this little battery pack here. And that will just make it basically turned into this nice little compact unit here. All right, so there we go. That should be all of the major components all set in place. Now, the last thing that we need to do is solder the little push button here. Again, it's going between the ground pin on the ESP and the reset pin on the ESP. So I will just pluck out my module here and get that soldered up, and then we should be able to just go ahead and take a look at the code, which is really, it's quite simple, and there we have it. So let's get that all set up. All right, so there we go. There is our ESP, and here is our little regulator setup. And now all I need to do is pop that in there and maybe, hot glue down these wires, but for now this is okay. And let's pop in a battery and see if it starts up. Oh, there we go, red light is on, and hopefully in a moment we should start seeing it. There we go, it's blinking. So that tells me that it's connected to the network and is doing its thing. And if I push the button, the light goes out, it restarts, has to reboot. And there we go, it's connected again. So now that we see how this little module here is built, let's go and hop over to the code and see how the code works. All right, so here you can see the code that makes it all run, and I wasn't lying, it is quite short. But let's just go through this quickly so that you guys see how it all works. So the first thing that we're gonna do is include ESP helper, because we always do that. And then I set up here a couple of little macros that just indicate, second, minute, hour. They're just numbers that indicate in milliseconds these, the various times here. So that anywhere that I want to do something for 1 second, I can just type 1 times second. Then we have a couple of little chunks of setup here for ESP helper and OTA. So we have an OTA password, which you can set, the host name for your device, which you can set, a topic that you'll post to for MQTT, and then just because in this program, all it's going to do is post the exact same message, I even created a little constant for my payload right here. So then we get to these two little metro timers, and the first one is my min run, which is 1 minute, and max run of 5 minutes. So what these do is keep the ESP running for a minimum of 1 minute and a maximum of 5 minutes. And the reason I have a minimum of 1 minute, I could just make it so that the moment it finishes publishing something to MQTT, it turns off. But I found that that actually was sort of not productive for me because it meant that I had a really hard time uploading any new programs through OTA. So the min run just keeps it running for a minute regardless. And that lets you just easily click the button. If you need to update it, it'll keep running for a minute and you can upload your code. So then we set up the ESP helper, and you guys have seen this all before, and all the same stuff and setup. You guys have seen this all before. If you haven't, go and check out one of the ESP helper tutorial videos, like the one in the top right of your screen now. Loop is really, really simple. So all we're doing is we're checking to make sure that we have a full connection on ESP helper and that we're not done. So done is this little Boolean variable that I put at the top of my program, and it basically just says when we set it to true, we've executed whatever task we want to do. So what the program does is, as long as we have a full connection and we're not done, we're going to publish to the topic and we're going to publish the payload. And this false here just indicates that it should not be a persistent message. And then we're going to mark done as true. And that's all. So now, even though we're connected, it's not going to run this code here because done has been set to true. So all that's left at the bottom of this program here is a little if statement and yield. So the if statement, all it does is check to see if we're done and that we've run for the minimum amount of time, or that we've run for the maximum amount of time. And with either of those being true, we're going to send the ESP into deep sleep. So this will just tell the ESP, go to sleep, and just wait for that button to be pressed again, at which point this whole program will start from scratch. We'll start all the way back up at the top. And that's it. It's a really simple little program, but it's also a really useful little device. So that's all for this video. If you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling really generous today, go to patreon.com/itkindaworks and just toss a couple bucks towards the channel. Any contribution helps make the channel just that much better. All right, well, thanks for watching. I will see you guys later.